They're furry, they're round, and most definitely not from another planet. They're actually from Australia. But other than that, I don't know much about them. Well, there's plenty of things that are strange about these animals. And today, we're going to tell you all about them. First up, it's time to get real weird. Koalas are one of the very few animals known to possess fingerprints almost identical to those of humans. Yeah, seriously. Take a look at this koala's fingerprints under an electron microscope. What do you see? Loops, whorls, and arches, pretty much the exact same patterns found in human fingerprints. At first glance, you might think that these are human fingerprints. If anything, they're more similar to ours than some other primates. Chimpanzees, for example, have fingerprints that look like this. Can you spot the difference? How about now? Yep, those are chimp fingerprints. It's hard to distinguish them from human fingerprints, which makes sense because chimps are our closest living relatives. So, how do koala fingerprints compare to ours? Let's take a closer look. These ridge patterns aren't just for show. They help animals grip onto things, but why do they specifically look like human fingerprints? It's not what you think. See, these patterns allow for increased friction, which improves grip. This is especially important for animals who climb a lot like koalas. Their fingerprints allow them to hang onto branches while they munch on leaves. And it's not just their hands that help them cling to trees. Their opposable thumbs do too. Opposable thumbs allow animals to grip objects with their fingers and thumbs, kind of like us. Some animals like lemurs have 2 opposable digits on each hand, while others like kangaroos and most primates have 1 thumb and 4 non-opposable fingers and 1 big toe on each foot. Koalas have 2 opposable toes on each foot. Yeah, you heard me right, toes. So when you're comparing koala hands to human hands, keep in mind that they're basically built differently. We have 5 fingers and they have 2. In terms of how their hands work, they're more similar to us than you might think. And yeah, they're super cute. Anyway, the similarities between koala and human fingerprints weren't even discovered until 1960. Until then, scientists didn't realize that fingerprints weren't unique to humans. Sure, they knew that primates had similar ridges on their fingers, but koalas really threw them for a loop. Now, you may be thinking that scientists should have been more surprised by this, since koalas are mammals and fingerprints aren't unique to the animal kingdom. You'd be right. But here's the thing. Scientists assumed that primates evolved to have fingerprints because they spend a lot of time climbing. They thought that other mammals would probably evolve something similar if they spent enough time climbing, but not necessarily fingerprints. Well, then scientists discovered that koalas have fingerprints too. And they're not exactly your average koala. These guys live in the mountains of New Guinea where the trees are much taller than the ones in Australia. Because of this, mountain koalas spend more time in the trees than lowland koalas, including traveling from tree to tree. So you can bet that they're putting those opposable toes to good use. To date, scientists haven't tested the grip strength of mountain koalas, but based on their lifestyle, they assume that their fingerprints help them hang on to branches while they're leaping from one tree to the next. So what's the point of fingerprints? Well, for koalas, they help them climb, hold on to branches, and grab leaves. Basically, they're super handy when you're a koala. Fingerprints also allow animals to feel tiny ridges, bumps, and grooves on objects, kind of like how your fingertips help you feel textures like rough, smooth, or squishy. When it comes to touch, though, human skin contains more receptors than most animals, so we can feel more subtle differences in texture than many other species. Plus, our fingerprints are way more complex than any other animal. So what makes human fingerprints so unique? Well, we don't exactly know. Unlike other animals, our fingerprints don't seem to have a direct connection to our sense of touch. Maybe they're just a coincidence. After all, our fingerprints don't really help us grip objects. Our palms do most of that work. It's likely that our fingerprints serve some sort of sensory function. But instead of helping us feel objects, they may help identify individuals within a species. This is called pattern recognition, and it's essentially how we recognize familiar faces. Our brains look for patterns, and after seeing many faces, we're able to distinguish between them. Perhaps our fingerprints do something similar. Unfortunately, we're not sure what. Now, you may be wondering how we ended up with human-like fingerprints. Well, it's not what you think. When animals evolve, their fingerprints evolve along with them. Koalas and humans share a common ancestor, but that doesn't mean that they're related. Koalas are marsupials, so they're more closely related to kangaroos than to us. As far as we know, they're the only marsupial that has fingerprints. And while it's easy to see how our ancestors may have developed fingerprints while spending lots of time in the trees, it's not clear why they didn't just evolve into something else over time, or why koalas still have them. After all, they don't. Instead, their fingerprints may play a role in identifying mates or recognizing each other. However, we don't really know. What we do know is that when forensic scientists were first made aware of the similarities between koala and human fingerprints, they got pretty worried. In 1963, they feared that these critters could interfere with criminal investigations. Imagine a burglar breaks into your house, rummages around, and leaves behind some fingerprints. Then a koala climbs through an open window and leaves some prints of its own. Oops. Seriously, though, scientists quickly reassured forensic experts that it was unlikely that koala fingerprints would ever cause confusion, since they only look like human fingerprints under an electron microscope. Under an optical microscope, they look totally different. Still, it's a good reminder that you can never predict what you'll find at a crime scene. I can't believe we used to think that koalas were just regular, ordinary animals. Now we know that they're more extraordinary than ever. And did you know that there's another animal that looks like a koala? Take a look at this guy. Do you see any similarities? Well, he's not a koala, although he does live in Australia. He's a wombat. Wombats are known for their blocky poop, but that's not what I want to talk about today. Like koalas, wombats are marsupials. That means that their babies complete their development in their mother's belly pouch after being born prematurely. But unlike koalas, wombats don't climb trees. They spend most of their time on the ground where they feed on grasses and herbs. And wombats do not have fingerprints like humans or koalas. If you want to learn more about them, stay tuned for more information. If you liked learning about fingerprints, you'll love learning about the circulatory system. After all, it has a lot of twists and turns, just like fingerprints. There's a ton of stuff inside your body that wouldn't be there if it weren't for the circulatory system. It brings oxygen and nutrients to every cell in your body, and if any part of it fails, you won't last long. Learn how it works and what can go wrong with it on Brilliant. Thanks to everyone for watching, and a special shout out to our supporters who made this episode possible.